Ever feel like you're doing everything, but losing touch with yourself? Welcome to Well Connected with Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer. This is your space to slow down, tune in, and realign. We'll talk health, relationships, purpose, and the truth behind what it really means to feel whole. Because alignment isn't just for your spine, it's for your life. Let's reconnect. Let's realign. Let's get well connected.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Hoefer with the Well Connected podcast, and I am absolutely thrilled about my guest today. This is a story 2 years in the making, and we have never had the opportunity to sit down and really discuss what we're going to be discussing today. So my guest, Jonathan Morrison, is one of the most remarkable cases that I've had the pleasure of taking care of over the years of my career. And it's been a really fun journey with him because besides being an extraordinary patient, he is amazing with documenting things. And so I get to learn a little bit about the world that he lives in. And he has shared so many amazing things with me on how to tell story and how to craft a journey that is worth investing in. So I'm so glad you're here, Jonathan.
Yeah, I know it's been wild to say the least. So I feel like we've talked a bit off camera and now we've hit the 2-year point officially earlier. March, I think, was 2 years.
Yeah.
And I finally feel like I've gotten into some sort of stride where, you know, obviously hindsight's 20/20 and things were better than they were, but it's still wild to look back. And even, you know, when you think you're making progress, it's still not done yet. It's still not done now, but I think I'm to the point now where it feels closer to normal than ever, which is a wild thing to say.
Yeah, when I met him, he came in and he couldn't talk because he had such insane pain in his face. One would liken it to a trigeminal neuralgia diagnosis, but he was dealing with extreme herpes virus outbreak in his face and in his eye. His neck was absolutely trashed. And what we discovered was that doing the cone beam CT, giving him a Blair correction and having him hold said Blair correction really was the transformative pivot point in his life. And he wrote me a letter to explain the depths of depravity that he was in. He was literally at the end of his rope. And I remember sitting there reading that letter and just having so much compassion for you and knowing in my heart and soul that I was going to be able to make a difference for you. And I didn't really understand who he was. I didn't understand almost the power that you command as far as like the work that you do and the influence that you have. But you did a little tiny journey, and I think it was a couple months in, you posted it on your YouTube channel, and I had 30 new patients in 30 days from all over the world. And so I was like, wait, who is this? And it was exciting because I've never really worked with anybody that had that influence. And it was neat to see that your story meant so much to so many. And this is the entire point of doing a podcast and why I love interviewing my patients and why I want to spread the word about Blair upper cervical chiropractic, because social media has the ability to change people's lives. And we met because of Kevin Pekka.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, well, to quickly recap in the Cliff Notes version is shingles had gotten into my eye and caused scarring. It ended up, you know, happening once in 22 and came back in 23, which was 10 times worse. I thought that was the bulk of the problems, but really it was just nervous system, brain related. There was multiple cranial nerves, cranial nerve 6, I know vagus nerve, and even the most interesting one that I found out with you was even just, I forget which one controls your tongue, but
12.
That's why I couldn't even physically speak as well. So it was just, I think I had looked for so many answers and I had been so depleted. And, you know, even that January, I tried to make one more push and it felt like it went wrong. I know we've talked about it where multiple different neurologists, doctors, everybody said it was in my head. I think because of the work I've done with cameras, I could tell like my eyes weren't focusing, they weren't working together. And thankfully, eventually someone listened, did the scan, which showed the bulge disc and some compression around my neck area, which was like ultimately the saving grace that led me to you. And it wasn't just a fairy tale story right away. I had interacted with another upper cervical doctor, and that didn't work out well. And every day I would just look for something, and I would fall asleep to just anything I could listen to. One happened to be Kevin Pekka talking with you. I think at that point I had gone down every single one of your podcasts and listened to your story. And it was also a pivot point too, because I was still not giving up, but I was like, this first guy didn't work. So I had scheduled another one in LA, and then I found your place. I scheduled it. And I remember, I think, getting the call, and I was like, I'm going to come here, and canceled the LA one, came. And I still, I wish I recorded the first day because it was super foggy. Even driving past the old place today, it still feels like a fever dream, because at that point there was so much, not just, I don't want to say brain fog, but like there was so much inflammation and so much compression that it was just a constant state of lightheadedness and dizziness. So I kind of just like found my way to the spot. And that's why I wrote you the letter, because I couldn't really talk.
And what's interesting is you said that a lot of the other practitioners that you had visited, whether it be an orthopedist or a neurologist or whoever, they said it's in your head. And I mean, to some extent that's true, but not in the way that they meant. It wasn't because you had a psychosis and you were just making it up. It was because in your head you had wicked cranial nerve dysfunction, and structurally your neck was causing problems with your cerebral spinal fluid and the dynamics of the vascular system and the arterial system in your brain. So they weren't wrong. It just isn't the way that they thought.
Sure. Yeah. I think from that end, it was like, here's antidepressants, here's mood stabilizers. And it's like, obviously I'm sad, but I'm not sad because I'm depressed. I'm depressed because my body doesn't work.
Right.
And, it was just like Groundhog's Day for a year straight. I would have to play games, and that was the thing of like, well, if I can make it till noon without going back to bed, then let me make it to 2 p.m., then 4 p.m., then 6 p.m. And it was just that cycle for a year. And at that point, you kind of lose perception of like, what's day, what's night? And when your dreams are more vivid than your day-to-day, then you start to question what is everything. So it was just a weird place that I don't think I would have understood if I tried to explain it to myself 6 years ago.
Right.
But, as we've learned, there's been so many different moving parts, but ultimately every time I come back to it, and it's weird too, because I try to remind myself, because it's easy to forget when you're out of it. But a lot of the times, like to fall asleep, now I'll replay how bad it was. Not like to be sad, but just to be thankful, because it was rough. And I think, there was vision therapy and brain rehab and all those things in between, but you were so extensive in your testing. That's where I found that my eyes couldn't converge, because of I had never seen anything that in depth. So obviously you were the door that opened everything else, but also you just taught me so much.
That's amazing. And the cool thing that I enjoyed about in the beginning, because now I don't have to see you very often. You're holding and you're living your life and you're doing what you were designed to do, right? In the beginning though, we got to see each other quite a bit. And you would ask really good questions, and you always wanted to know more about the anatomy and how did this work. And you just like put a phone in my face and start recording, and I'd just be like, here, I'm going to talk. I was a little curious about it. I wasn't sure like what the point of it all was. And I was like, are you trying to catch me in something? But really,
I remember when you asked me that.
Yeah. I was like, what's this about? But it was because you had this thirst for knowledge, because you really wanted to know like, what is going on with me? And I think that that's where that whole adage of doctor means teacher. I really genuinely want to educate the people that I get to take care of, to be able to, have command of their own existence and make a educated decision and have autonomy over why they're choosing what they're choosing. So your curiosity has even more empowered me to be prepared to just educate people on the entire process. And I got to give you credit hanging in there those first several months with how far down the cascade of dysregulation you were. You were a hero for me, because you just kept showing up for yourself, and that kept allowing me to like lean into yes. And I got to watch this incredible healing unfold before my eyes in such profound ways. So it was a really cool experience to like lead you through that, but also to watch you show up for yourself.
Yeah. And I told you many times, I think when you're in your best element, it's just when you're just not thinking about it. And I think sometimes you forget how badass you are with the knowledge, because, you're I guess just range of knowledge, and then even just with all of the functional neurology, it like smokes 99.9% of the people that I've interacted with. And I think it was part, obviously, curiosity, and I think also part just there was a point where I couldn't remember things. So I had to just like, it at a point it became my journal of like, I'm not going to remember this in 6 hours, so let me record it.
And I think that speaks to the fact that you didn't record the first interaction because you were in such a fog and you were in such pain. It didn't even occur to you. And the thing is, that's what you do. You record story, you tell story, you craft story. And so to see how far you've come from that day in, I think, March of 2023 to now, it is absolutely inspiring for me to know that I got to be a part of this transformation and to know how many other lives you've affected, because I said you put one video out and in an hour, there was 1 million views. And then I had 30 new patients calling me from all over the world. And I was like, what? Who? Am I allowed to tell people I know you? Like, cause HIPAA and things like that. So it was amazing. And so I think that both of us have this desire to really be truth tellers, and I get to do it through the art of chiropractic, and you get to do it through the art of storytelling behind the camera.
Yeah, and I'm just thankful to get to do it again, just because, there was absolutely a point that I thought I was never going to.
Right.
And, I'll continue to thank you. And like I said, I know there are so many moving parts, but at the end of the day, like, I will always come back to it. I not that I get scared, but sometimes, with the looking back, it's terrifying to think if there was one piece missing.
Yeah.
And I know without a doubt, if you weren't the first step, I wouldn't have been able to make all this progress. And everything that I do today is because of the first step that you made. And it's a different process, right? Because I went to NUCA, and that has its place and its merit. Didn't work for me.
Right.
And I saw another Blair doctor. And in this case, it was probably not being familiar with everything else that was going on.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, maybe adjusting too many times.
Sure.
So I think it's a different concept where it's like, we've been in this process, and I've been coming here for 2 years. And like we talked about, I've only been adjusted maybe 3 times.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
and
4 tops, but
at the very most 4. But I should have looked it up. But I know of 3 for sure. And you even went rollerblading once, fell off of a huge jump, landed and hit your back, and you didn't even go out of alignment. So that was impressive to me. And I remember you brought a video in, and then you low key put a camera up and watched my response. And I was like, what are we doing? How did you not go out of alignment after that? Because that's normal. People would go out of alignment, and you didn't. And so to see the stability occur, and then what results from that stability, which is you're functioning better, you're thinking better, you're doing your life better.
Yeah.
I think it's all amazing. And I think I want to ask one question out of all the things. I think you intimated it with, you took the first step, or I did the first foundational thing, but what really got you through those dark nights? Because you didn't actually understand how deep it would go, because retracing is gnarly.
Sure. Truthfully, it's my mom. I think, not to get too emotional too quick, we've obviously both had our share of mental health in our life. My dad was bipolar. We lost him early. She, I know everyone's going to say their mom is the best mom, but she is not even superwoman, but Superman. She is everything. And she found my dad. She picked herself up and still was there, even in that process. So I think she eventually remarried, and that was also a bit of a traumatic experience where he was a little bit older, so he felt a little more grandfather-like to me. And he never overstepped. He never tried to be a dad, which was nice. So I learned a lot. I saw how he took care of my mom. He ended up having a heart attack, in front of me, and we rushed him to the hospital. And in that 5-minute drive from the house to the hospital, he didn't make it. Wow. And I think, obviously my mom protected us from my dad, and we never had to see him. This one was different, and I think there was a moment after where he was just there and, peaceful, and it looked like he was sleeping, but every sound, every beep, to see my mom look up or have this look of hope or them defeat and think maybe he came back. And so just, I think, to know, I'd never seen her defeated like that. And I think to have that in my head was probably the thing, because I've talked about it before. I was at a place, you know, I can't sit here and say that I was strong through all of it, because I wasn't. I was upset. I didn't like who I was. I was angry, you know, at the world, at God, at whatever it is, you know, and I didn't like who I had become. And it wasn't from a lack of wanting to be here. I think I was just tired.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know, I would wake up in pain, go to bed in pain. I would have dreams where I would be better and wake up and not, and just, you know, cry. So I think as broken and as much as I had given up, I think just knowing what that would do to her was probably the thing. And that was, yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. You know my story too a little bit, and I've shared it on several podcasts. I think even my own podcast, talking about like the suicidal ideology and just how dark it got for me, because I had no hope, because I suffered every day. And it was my daughter Lauren that just kept me going, because I grew up without a mother and I did not want that for her. So I love that you, like me, have a champion that like was the focal point, that you're like, I just got to keep going for her. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's weird how it all works, you know, because I know this is you know, I'm not the most religious person. I do believe in God. I think I was brought up around people who used it in a bad way. And in some ways, you know, I've had this thought where it feels like sometimes God holds you hostage, because it's like, you know, you have to trust in the process and believe that things happen for a reason, and sometimes accept that bad things happen to good people. And I think that thought of, similar to how my mom was the best mom, my dad was the best dad. So, you know, I feel like sometimes it got cut short to have him for 18 years of my life. And what helps me is just knowing that, you know, even those 18 years might be better than a lot of people get in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And then you gotta, you know, believe in this greater good, or you're not gonna see him again. So I think it's just, it's a tough place, but ultimately believing in something is better than not. And at the end of the day, you just gotta try and be a decent person. But all that said, though, it's weird how it all works and how it all lines up and gets you from point A to point B. And I think probably the coolest thing I could tell you this time around is I think to the point now where if I could go back and reverse it, I don't know if I would. Right. Just because that's also a scary thought, to have never met you, to never have gone down this path. And shout out Pekka, you know.
Man, yeah, I love that kid.
Yeah, and it was
Dr. Pekka.
Well, it was his thing, I think, that spoke to me as someone who does believe but has struggled, where part of his story was that he went to a priest, and the priest told him that you have to find somebody that went through what you went through, and if you can't find that person, be that person. And it was a very just logically, you know, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's been challenging for sure, but I'm so thankful, and I'm grateful to be sitting here with a clear head. Yeah. I don't know if we've ever been able to have a conversation where I'm not clear-headed, because even as things were better, you know, there was still pain, there was still lightheadedness. Sure. But it's getting to the point now where that's, you know, more of an afterthought, which is cool. Yeah, we were able to fly to Florida about a year ago and actually visit Dr. Pekka at his office in St. Augustine, Tree of Life Chiropractic. Shout out to him. And we had this interlude where we just talked about like the power of social media and how his desire to get more stories out social media wise for upper cervical for Blair Chiropractic. He started a company called UCC Near Me. And before that even came about, you were just watching his YouTube videos, and like his interviews with me and just different people that he had talked to kind of gave you that like spark of hope to just keep choosing, I'm going to find something, right? And so when we went to Florida last year, it was a huge, like check, like, oh my gosh, you can travel now, you know, because you hadn't up to that point. And then fast forward to another year, here we are, we're in my new space. We are not having to see you but once a month, and you're never out of alignment, and you're functioning again. So it is a huge full circle to be able to look back and be grateful for the adversity, dare I say, trauma of that time, and really have the gratitude for it, because I think that's when
we really get to ascend and just be that light for someone else, because we've gone through the gamut of all the emotions. We're not angry anymore. We're not bitter. We're surrendered and we're grateful.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I remember that was one of the questions I got early on, was like, what are you going to do when you're better? And I just said, I want to go to Sprouts and look down the aisles, you know, because I couldn't for a while, and I like to go read labels. And
yeah. Well, and he's a pretty mean cook too, because when we were out in Florida, he just whipped up this insane steak dinner with all the sides and all the fixing. I was like, where have you been, mister? If I had known you could cook steak, I would have invited you over many moons ago.
Well, we're due for one then.
Yeah, for sure. Outside of the humidity of St. Augustine in August.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Cool spot, but it was crazy weather.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Well, this was, oh my gosh, the best conversation, long time overdue. And I'm so grateful that we could have this kind of like revisiting of your journey. And we'll get to like kind of reminisce over the work that we've done with Kevin and those talks that we did. I know that they're referenced in other podcasts that we've published. So if you want to know more about the journey with Kevin and me, specifically with Jonathan and UCC near me and all that fun stuff, you can definitely go check out the other episodes that we published from the St. Augustine visit.
Yeah, honestly though, like go check out every single piece, even if it's like years ago, because I still I forget who the patient was, but one of the ones that stuck out to me was someone that you had stayed in contact with, and they had came less and less, and they like had an accident moving, and you were there, you know, as they moved. So just go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you kind of hit an end point, just see Dr. Hoefer. It's not fluff. It's not hype. She really did save me. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thanks, bud. You're the best. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Well Connected podcast. My guest, Jonathan Morrison. We're probably going to have another conversation with him very soon, just to talk about what he's up to these days. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns regarding Well Connected Chiropractic or the Blair Chiropractic method, don't hesitate to hit me in the comments, and also subscribe to my channel so that we can get more people hearing about all this amazing thing called Blair. And I will talk to you soon.
You sound like a YouTuber. Shout out, Blair.
Thanks for joining Dr. Hoefer today on Well Connected. We trust something you heard brought you closer to the life you're meant to live. Because alignment isn't just about your spine. It's how you move through the world. So keep listening to your body, trusting your wisdom, and living your life in alignment. And above all, stay well connected.